So my question is, so like whenever I meet atheists or anything like that, they always have this like prejudice that God is like a fairy tale or is like something from like something like a fairy tale book. So
Like
my
an
question is, how
emotional.
do we like? Yeah. So my question is, how do we like just like destroy this like preconceived notion of all this prejudice?
Okay, I mean, this is a pretty simple thing to deal with. So if someone says, well, God is like a fairy tale and they've not given you any evidence, then what can be asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. You can say to them, well, I think you're a fairy tale. Or you could say whatever, right? If they're making a claim, they're saying God is like a fairy tale, then you can ask them, well, why? What's your evidence for that? How do you explain reality? How do you explain that the vast majority of people on earth have believed in God? Are you basically saying that the vast majority of people on earth are deluded? You can bring it in from various perspectives. However, always ask the person to make an argument rather than trying to challenge an argument when they haven't given any evidence for anything.
Yes. Don't be on the intellectual back foot, bro. If they make such a claim, you need to just ask them to justify their claims, and you need to just also understand the door always swings both ways. If they say, "Oh, your God's a fairy tale," I would say, "No, really? Atheism was a fairy tale. It believes in magic. The universe came from nothing." Some people argue. Our sense of objective morality is just reduced to the electrons whizzing around. Our inner subjective conscious experiences is based on cold, blind, non-conscious physical processes. You're basically saying, they're saying to you that consciousness, the reality of consciousness, the stream of consciousness, this amazing inner subjective conscious experience emerged from non-conscious reality. That's what they're saying. It's equivalent of kissing a rock and expecting butterflies to emerge. That's what they're saying to you. Don't let them
Atheists.
stay away with it. But obviously do it with wisdom and with compassion and in the right context. But I'm being hyperbolic for you just to understand. Remember, the door always swings the both ways when it comes to these issues, right? Get them to justify their statement and also make them realize, in actual fact, you're the one holding the fairy tale, my friend. You're the one believing in magic, not me.
No, they do believe in fairy tales. If you look at these images and pictures they create of the caveman and Neanderthals, and them lighting fire and hunting, and the imaginary pictures they make. Sabur, you must have seen, you know, uh, maybe you're trying to impersonate one of those, but with that hairstyle, with, with that hairstyle, definitely. Okay, but I mean, on a serious note, if you look at the images they create to make a story of the origin of man, wallahi, these are fairy tales, right? The pictures they have created of species walking out of water, turning into something else, right? What we call macro evolution is unbelievable. Atheists do believe in fairy tales. They do believe these things. They do believe that these things happen. And then they tell us, they have an audacity to tell us that you guys believe in fairy tales. At least we believe in the supernatural. We have reasons to believe in the supernatural, right? You don't. How do you justify all these images and all these stories you create out of the caveman or the early man or the origin of man? Sabur, you have any comment on that?
No, I was just enjoying your description of really and truly. When I read up some of these things about, why is it men like the color blue and women like the color red, and then they come up with these ideas. Well, when the watering hole, when we were hunter gatherers, women were picking up things which are red. Men used to look up at the blue sky, like ridiculous, just absolute absurd ideas, right? And because they're said by people who are scientists and because people who are assertive and they come across eloquent, that you just get hordes and hordes of people who are socialized into believing this nonsense.
Bro, remember, there's a book called Darwinian Fairy Tales by an atheist. Talk to us about that, some of the funny things in there.
Yeah, that's a great book. And just before I get into the book, I just want to remind everybody that we are fundraising tonight for the Sapience Institute. I know people watching are enjoying this right now. Mashallah, I can see the numbers going up and the comments and stuff. We want to continue the great work that we've been doing over the last year, and it's a new institute. So please click on the pinned comment and make a donation there. And also, what's the also bit? I forgot the also bit. Yeah. So Darwinian delusions, right? Not Darwinian delusions, Darwinian fairy tales. There was a atheist philosopher by the name David Stove, right? He was actually known for his works in not just philosophy of biology, but just general other ideas within philosophy. He's actually quite well respected. And in the 1990s, he actually wrote his last book, Darwinian Fairy Tales. And when he published this book, he got absolutely slaughtered by the atheist community, because he basically decided to kick the holy cow of Darwinism. In fact, he didn't kick it. He sort of, started stomping on his face while he was mooing and gasping for air. So, his entire onslaught on Darwinism is that Darwinism is a slander upon human beings. We all collectively are not out there. I'm not worried for my own personal safety when I walk out of the door, wondering if my neighbor is going to attack me and steal my resources. We're not in this, constant Hobbesian all against all warfare. We all collectively pay taxes to help the unfittest survive in hospitals. We give charity anonymously. So what he described it as is Darwinism is a slander upon human beings, because human beings are addicted to altruism, right? So, many aspects of that book are quite entertaining. But yeah, I think everyone should, have a read of it.
And very quickly, I want to remind everyone, Brother Rehan, who actually put out the challenge of £1,000. Anyone matching that £1,000, he will make a donation, inshallah, of £1,000. He said the challenge still stands. It's there. I'll be back later, inshallah. The £1,000 match offer still stands. Come on, guys. 290 people on this YouTube stream. Someone can donate £1,000, surely. Absolutely. Not someone. Many ones. Many ones.
Actually, there's about nearly 357. There's 357 at the moment.
Allahu Akbar. So it's increasing. All of you 357 people watching right now, start sharing this stream on your social media platforms. This is the least you can do, my brothers and sisters. This is the least way you can support us. Just start clicking the share button wherever you may be watching. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, wherever it may be. This is the least effort you can put into this, and your reward will be maximum. And brothers and sisters with money who are still watching and still thinking, what are you waiting for? I was talking about this yesterday on another appeal, that there was a Christian missionary. She lost her shades, her glasses, her pair of spectacles. They broke. And she put up an appeal online asking the Christian community to make a donation for her spectacles. You know how much she raised? Do you have any idea, Brother Hamza?
Over 10K, was
Yeah,
it?
you told me it was about 10K.
$10,000. I think it was dollars or pounds.
Pounds, I think.
Yeah, £10,000 for a pair of spectacles for a Christian missionary working in the way of the Christ. Okay, this is how the Christian community responds to these missionaries. Some of them who are actively spreading hate against Islam and Muslims, and the only line of defense is organizations like this, Sapience, okay, and some other organizations doing some great work elsewhere. My brothers and sisters, is this how miskeen we are when it comes to money?
So, Adnan, stop you in the mid-flow. I really, really want everybody to reflect upon this narration of the Prophet ﷺ, which actually Musa narrated to me the other day, which I'd never ever heard of this narration. Yeah, and in this narration, the Prophet ﷺ says, "Charity is a proof. Charity is an evidence." And then I asked Musa, I said, "What does this mean? Like, what is it? It's such the Prophet ﷺ, he's giving us these pieces of advice in a very concise way, a very eloquent way, and essentially, charity is evidence of your faith. It's the evidence that you have more trust in Allah than what's in the palm of your hand, right? And the people watching right now, I want everybody to understand this free content that you're enjoying, this free stuff that we've been doing all throughout the years, and especially the last year we've got this institute. This type of institute is simply going to crash and not be able to function unless people dig deep and they actually support this institute. There are so many people who reach out to us, parents, students, people who are confused, people who are interested in Islam. And are we going to turn these people away? Are we not going to put out more research? Are we not going to be able to publish, not be able to do the Lighthouse mentoring, all this stuff? This is absolutely urgent. I know people watching right now, of the 330 people watching, I know what everybody's thinking. You're thinking, last 10 days, I'm going to take out my money, I'm going to give it. That's fine. You can think like that. But what makes you think you're going to make it to the last 10 nights?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sadaqah supposed to be...
Or you're going to have your money. Who knows?
Exactly. You might get robbed.
Yeah.
You
And
might
the people-
buy antique
yeah.
books and someone destroys them. You never know.
And the people of the Akhirah, what do they say in the Quran? If only I could go back and give sadaqah.
Absolutely.
Not if only I could go back and pray, or if I could go back and do something. Because sadaqah is a proof for your
Absolutely.
iman.
No, I
And-
want people to think of a parent whose child has been exposed to lies and misconceptions and Islamophobic websites. Some of these youngsters go on these websites and they come across doubts and they start to lose their faith. Imagine the plight of parents. Wallahi, I have seen them. Wallahi, I have had many meetings with parents and their children. Parents are crying, shedding tears of blood. Wallahi, they're saying, we want our child to go to Jannah. We want our child to be a Muslim. How can he become an apostate? And then when we speak to the children, some of these misconceptions could have been removed early on if we had institutions like this. This is why Sapience Institute has been established, so that we preempt situations like that, so that situations like that don't arise, so that these doubts don't accumulate and cause an apostasy, right? You cannot imagine the plight of parents who have to see their child become a disbeliever in front of their eyes and doomed to hellfire.
Do you
Brothers
mind
and
if I add
sisters-
something to give a little perspective?
Yes,
So-
please.
Basically, you really will be funding David against Goliath here. So there was a brother of mine, Halabi, released a video not too long ago, basically addressing this issue with regards to Muslims being overrepresented in the media. And so there was an article in a journal called Justice Quarterly titled, "Why do some terrorist attacks receive more media attention than others?" And in this study, they showed that Muslims perpetrated 12.5% of the terror attacks, yet received 50.4% of all media coverage. And this was on the biggest media outlets out there. So, news articles like CNN, etc. They're not insignificant sources. These are the major source platforms in the news. And whenever it's a Muslim, this is majorly overrepresented compared to any others. So there was even more information that he gives. For example, he shows that whenever Muslims' voices are heard on the news, or whenever Muslims are talked about on the news, they only self-represent 3% of the time. And that 3% can include extremists and people who are considered deviant within the religion and things like that. So that 3% of total, 68% of the time it's being mentioned by journalists, 21% of the time it's mentioned by Donald Trump, 8% of the time it's mentioned by others. And the stats are shocking. Like the more you look into it, it's clearly...
Look, Islam is the most attacked faith in the world today. It has been for a very long time, by the way. It started in the Middle Ages when Catholic monks were misrepresenting Islam. They were the peddlers of Islamophobia at that time, and they're the ones who were feeding crusades against Muslims with intellectual impetus, right? Today, a lot of these attacks against Muslims around the world are happening because there is some intellectual impetus behind it, okay? Albeit a satanic one, albeit misplaced and really evil one, but there is an impetus, right? And what intellectual impetus do we have to defend Islam is the question. How many organizations are there out there who are doing the work Sapience is doing? You can count them on one hand again, okay? When it comes to our defense mechanism, defending the intellectual boundaries of Islam, defending Islam intellectually, wallahi, we are miskeens. So that's why I really want brothers and sisters who are watching this live feed to understand that this is not a joke, okay? We are up against an army of Islamophobes who are funded by billions of dollars. There are channels running.
Adnan,
Yeah.
listen, let me just tell people, sorry for interrupting. I do, but it just came to my mind now. Let's be real with you, right? From an Islamic spiritual metaphysical point of view, we are irrelevant in this. Wallahi, I truly believe Islam will be successful with or without us. We don't need money. We don't need ourselves. We don't need research. We don't need anything. Wallahi, uqsum billah, I believe this, yeah? If you don't believe this, then we all have a problem. I tell you what this is about. What really this is about. Yeah, from a secondary issue, Adnan is right. But primarily, I tell you what this is about. This is about us begging Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be used to be part of that reward. It's us begging to be part of that reward gravy train that we get this divine blessing and reward from Allah, because this is going to happen with or without us. There's about nearly over 300 people in this live stream. It's irrelevant if there's 3 or 300. Wallahi, I believe this. Allah will make his deen victorious. Khalas. With us or without us. The thing we need to understand, and this is Islam. Let's not make this into a capitalist, neo-secular thing. In reality, we are giving each other the opportunity to gain some special divine mercy. It's simple as that. It is as simple as that. And the very fact that we're just here online talking about our work and that you're here watching with the opportunity to give, this is a blessing in itself. And on the day of judgment, you would wish 1,000 of these moments, 1,000,000 of these moments. So we just need to realize that, do we want to gain that reward? It's going to happen with or without us. Are we going to be on the sidelines or are we going to be on the field? As Adnan always says beautifully, the victory for the believer is when he's on the field. Forget what happens if he's there, because Allah will make it victorious anyway. Islam will be victorious and would shine its bright lights for everybody to see. But are we going to be the ones involved in that process? That's the question. Are you the ones going to support a vehicle like Sapience? And there are many other vehicles, and we support those vehicles. But are you going to support this particular vehicle that's fulfilling a niche? For example, when he spoke about parents, we have Lighthouse mentoring service. We've been inundated with requests. It's a free service where people book one-to-one sessions, transformative sessions. People with doubts, du'at are mentored to become better du'at so they could share Islam academically, intellectually. Imams, parents, teachers to be able to share Islam effectively and to address other people's doubts. Non-Muslims will bring them back to Islam, and ex-Muslims to bring them back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All of this is transformative. People have access to books and articles and this, that, and the other. It has its effect. But what is truly transformative is the one-to-one. Let me give you a story. A famous da'i in America, running a famous institute in America, contacted me in order for me to speak to someone who's also very famous on social media, has over 1 million people or something. He was suffering from doubts, or suffering to the point where I think he almost left Islam. After 1 or 2 calls, he came back, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
But the point I'm trying to say, this person had access to institutes, readings, books, and this, that, and the other. What we realize, not only based on social psychology, cognitive psychology, but even our experience, is that the one-to-one dynamic cannot be replaced. Allah sent down the Quran, not on its own. If the book was enough, the Quran would be sitting in the skies and we could read it and we'd be done. But Allah sent down the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to guide us and inspire us and have the experiential aspect to be a source of morality and so on and so forth. And he inspired the Sahaba, and the Sahaba inspired the Tabi'een, and it continued to today. We need this one-to-one element. We've been inundated to the degree where we have bookings into, I think, August now. And it's probably going to go into next year. It's nearly on the verge of collapse, brothers and sisters. This is a unique service that it's very hard work, but forget vanity metrics. It's impact. Imagine we change the lives of 5 du'at and they end up increasing their shahadas by 200%. Imagine we basically train and mentor privately imams, mashayikh, and students of knowledge that have a great impact in the dawah. This is the engine behind the dawah, brothers and sisters. And I've done a few sessions, and also Yusuf has done a few sessions. So Yusuf, I'm going to let you into just to describe the session that you had. Obviously, it's private and confidential, but you could generalize it for people to understand. But if you want sadaqah jariyah, if you want to support this cause, go to sapiencinstitute.org/donate live, or go to the description, click on the link. Brother Yusuf, please explain about your experience with your Lighthouse mentoring session.
Yeah, alhamdulillah, it was really good. So I was supposed to have 3. Unfortunately, a couple didn't show up, but there was one brother who did. And mashallah, it was brilliant. It was basically what these are is just an opportunity for people, because one of the biggest issues with du'at, generally who have like large followings on social media, is you just have this wave of messages and this wave of people trying to reach out to you, and it's really difficult to sort of get back to each and every single one of them. So the whole Lighthouse Project here is basically trying to offer a solution to this. We're trying to get it to a point where there are a number of dedicated people that do dedicate a set amount of time to sit down and to answer the questions that people have on a one-to-one basis. So it's not just this dead over messages and writing, because one of the things, I used to work in call center, and it was over the phone, and the thing that they constantly mention to us is that like something over 90% of communication is visual, and you lose a lot of that on the phone, and you have to make up for it with your voice. And then obviously if you're then reducing that from voice to text, you're losing even more. And obviously these Lighthouse sessions, they're all done on Zoom, so you can see the person's face, they can see your face, and we're sort of organizing amongst ourselves to set aside a certain amount of time each week to put forward to working towards helping people, having a discussion with them one-to-one, and then obviously trying to work through these problems in a way that feels more natural, rather than these sort of you're typing on a keyboard and it's hard to see the tone of the person when you're reading through it. So yeah, I think it's worthwhile, and inshallah it'll grow, and inshallah the team will expand.
Yes.
And this is something obviously that these donations will help contribute towards.
Like I had a session, Yusuf, with a lecturer from university in Asia. He did a PhD in computer science, and he's involved in AI. And he sat with me, and it wasn't about doubts, but it was about mentoring. So he wanted to get involved in the dawah. So we're exploring ways on how he can impact the dawah with his academic credentials, because this guy is a published guy in artificial intelligence. He's a doctor of computer science. So imagine we mentor him to the degree where he gets inspired, touched, moved, and inspired, when now he basically creates a massive impact in his field concerning Islam and the dawah. 1 hour, a couple of hours of someone like this could have massive impact in the future. So it's not only about dealing with people's doubts, but it's mentoring people as well, so they could be effective and they could basically have huge impact. And that can't be done in a live stream. It can't be done via text messages. It can't be done even via call. You need to sit down and have that human interaction. That's where impact lies.